My observation is that there is a huge problem with animal shelters in America, but there shouldn't be. There are plenty of people who want to adopt animals from shelters, but run into hardships along the way that prevent them from doing so. The explanation for those hardships are as followed. Part 1. Why do people give up animals in the first place? Nearly 6.5 million animals are brought to shelters each year in the United States. The causal explanation to this has many parts, and it's different for each person, animal, and situation. According to the Scientific American magazine, people give up animals a lot of the times with the excuse of behavior problems. Other times, the problem can be owner specific. Maybe the owner is in financial trouble, has an illness that prevents them from giving the pet the care that it needs. Maybe they're moving, and maybe that new place doesn't allow for pets, or the journey would be too hard for a pet. And finally, a common reason for pets being brought to the shelter is because the pet was given as a gift. Bestowing the responsibility of a pet onto someone who is not ready for it doesn't work out well. Let's dive deeper into the excuse of behavior problems. Sometimes, truly, the animal is hard to train and tame and would take a very skilled and experienced person to have as their owner. Other times, it's the owner giving up. A common problem in shelters is with their kittens and puppies. As adorable and little as they are a lot of work. These animals are infants and need a lot of attention, love, and training to be manageable pets. A big reason for seeing so many older animals in shelters is because people will adopt them as puppies or kittens, and then when they get too big or too much to handle, they end up taking them back. Pets are a huge responsibility, and these factors are big contributors as to why there are so many animals being cycled through the shelter industry in America. Part 2. Problems with certain animal shelters. The coin can flip both ways when it comes to the shelter problem in America. According to an article written for the Veterinarian Journal, the worker to animal ratio in nearly 90% of shelters is pretty low. This isn't always their fault, but not having enough people on staff can result in lack of attention and care for animals. This is why a lot of shelters, like Oklahoma Humane, will train people to be volunteers so that the animals are still getting care while the staff are able to handle adoptions. An underlying process explanation would be that the atmosphere of shelters can really bum people out and make them not want to go there or stay there long, especially if that certain shelter is open about their euthanizing. We all remember the ASPCA commercials with the Sarah McLachlan song, right? If you're anything like me, you probably changed the channel very quickly to prevent yourself from crying. Even Sarah herself said that she can't stand to sit through them. This is most people's perspective of animal shelters if they've never seen one themselves. Finally, a huge problem with many shelters is the boundary set in place for common people to adopt animals. Though there should be some restrictions to prevent mistreatment, having an adoption packet that is more than 10 pages long and house inspections will easily prevent people from wanting to try adoption. But should this mean that any person who lives in an apartment shouldn't be allowed to have a dog? That rules out quite a few owners. What I've seen through working with Oklahoma Humane for the last 3 years is that they are trying. The adoption facility is nice, clean, and cheerful. They try hard to skip the sob stories and instead get people excited about their new furry friend. In conclusion, according to the charity Maggie's Fun, research on people who adopt from stores, shelters, and breeders, there are a lot of people who want pets out there. But if a pet store or a breeder will have fewer restrictions and a happier environment, more people will want to adopt through that. The shelter problem in America is both people not being able to care for the animals as they thought they could, and making sure that shelters are in good shape for the number of animals in their care. I believe with new advertising and education on the responsibility of pet ownership, that 6.5 million will go way down. When the adopter and the shelter are in capable hands, the correlation for shelter adoptions is positive. People who have had a positive experience with shelters were shown to say that adoptions evoke a great sense of pride, kindness, and social responsibility. My observation is that there is no need for the shelter problem in America, and through means of preventing and eliminating fickle ownership and elevating proper environments for animals, this problem could go away pretty easily.